Story time. About that time that I got invited to Faraday Future's factory. It's not really a factory, to be honest with you. It's more like a showroom, which really wasn't like a showroom. It was more like a warehouse with some mock-up cars and an actual working car. For those of you who are not familiar with Faraday Future, they're basically one of those new the startup companies that want to produce electric vehicles. This was last year. I just had the opportunity to actually work with them, and basically they gave me a brief tour of their factory. Again, I'm using the word factory very loosely because it's not a place where you could really mass produce vehicles. So from my understanding, the actual factory was somewhere else, and this was in the location for this event was in LA. They have two working models there with unfinished interiors. I'm honestly not going to get into a lot of the details because of the non-disclosure agreement that I signed. Plus, I don't really know much about the technology to really talk about it. But what I will share is my experience during that day. I got there with a bunch of other influencers. Fine. Well, let's use that word, influencers. We were basically given the task to just follow whoever is leading the tour. And it was this older gentleman, and he was talking about the technology, but it's very, very general in the sense of explaining things. So it's almost like to us, we didn't really understand anything. Maybe I'll just speak for myself, but I didn't really understand anything that they were trying to tell us. So anyway, they shuffle us along into this main showroom where they showed us these different sculptures of the first, designs or iteration of the FF, which is Faraday Future's vehicle. It's like an SUV slash, it's basically a crossover, but that's completely electric. I thought it looked a lot cooler in person. It felt like a very aerodynamic van. It's probably like a weird way to describe it, but if I'm looking back, that's really how I remember it. Now, I did see a couple of like really nice sculptures of like the first few designs. They looked a lot sleeker in my opinion, but I wasn't allowed to film them. Actually, I was, but I wasn't allowed to share it. So there's a lot of things that they didn't want to be revealed, but they showed us the vehicle. They had us sit down, and the idea of this vehicle was that it's basically a moving internet cafe. Maybe a cafe is not the right word, but in a weird way, it is like an internet cafe because their whole thing was you ride in this car and you are completely connected to the internet. And so you can still do all your stuff. Like if you're working remotely, you can still work. They have screens that come down from the ceiling and you can actually get some work done. And there are 4 seats in this vehicle. So the idea is that each seat has their own bubble or connection. So they have independent experiences from one another. I don't know how they're going to do that. They did show us a video. They have this speaker setup where the people in the front can listen or watch to something completely different from the people in the back. Obviously, the driver's not included. But yeah, that's basically what kind of makes it unique. The seats themselves were comfortable. They did remind me very much of really expensive massage seats. Faraday Future is actually the first company that I personally have seen where they made the seats in the back extend so that you can lay down, like Lazy Boys. So you can literally just relax in comfort and luxury. Really nice in concept and on paper. Not really sure if it's for everyone. One thing that really jumped to me after sitting inside the vehicle is that there's a huge number of screens, like screens everywhere, which gave me the impression that you are most likely going to be a passenger in this sort of vehicle instead of the driver. What I know about Faraday is that they're trying to position themselves as someone who is ultra luxurious. I don't really think that their vehicle is going to be sold to like individuals per se. I mean, maybe rich, super rich people, kind of like the people who buy Maybachs that don't necessarily drive the car. They are driven around by a chauffeur, or maybe even a very expensive shuttle service. Because I think their cars start around in like the 200,000 range. So that's just insane. The fun thing, though, was they did let me ride in one of the working models. Now, the interior wasn't completely done, but they did drive me around town, and the driver was actually really, really nice, and he is an enthusiast. Like, he was so excited talking about the car, so excited talking about all these different cars that he's driven and experienced. He's been doing this for, like, not for Faraday specifically, but for different companies for the last, I don't know, at least decade. And so he's very experienced, and he took us around LA. The thing that really struck me is that how huge the vehicle felt inside, because you feel like you're sitting inside a van, and it was moving like a Mini Cooper. It's crazy fast and it's darting left and right. And it was completely flat as it was taking corners, obviously, because the battery is down below. It was a very memorable experience, really fast, like to the point where I'm actually like getting nervous, but also very comfortable. Now, unfortunately, that was really the only experience that I've had. And since then, I've tried to keep tabs on Faraday Future as to what they're doing. They've been very, very quiet, especially during on their social media. So what the future of Faraday Future is going to be like, I'm not really sure. At the end of that video, I did say that the future is looking bright, but this was about a year ago. Now seeing how the competition's really heating up, not really so sure, especially since I haven't really heard anything from them. One impression that I did get from the team in general is that they're very hands-on. They felt like a small group of people who are really passionate about their product. I was really hopeful to see how Faraday would be in the next year or so. Supposedly, they were going to release their first actual car by this year. I don't know how they're going to do that, to be honest. They've been rather quiet. So yeah, I just wanted to share that experience. I'll leave the link to the video that I shot last year down below if you want to watch it. Mind you though, it's not one of the best videos. You'll probably notice that most of the footage that I used are stock footage because I wasn't allowed to really film anything, which is kind of weird because it's like they really just wanted to drum up some, I guess, excitement or awareness, just bring some awareness to the brand and what they're doing. Anyway, just wanted to tell that quick story. Hope you guys are having an awesome week. It's really, really hot here in San Diego. So wherever you are, stay cool. Or if you happen to be somewhere really, really cold, stay warm.